Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Amy Hope on the podcast. She's another guest coming to us all the way from the UK. She's close to the Manchester area. And yeah, she's on here to share her health and fitness journey. She's a Miss Universe bikini competitor. And yeah, we're just here to talk all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Amy, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
Well, I ask this question every single time, no matter how much flack I get for it. What is the weather like today?
Actually, sunny. It's not raining for a change.
Wait, so you're in the UK and it's not raining? Are you trying to convince me that that's actually a possibility?
I know, right? I'm shocked myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Out of I told her before, we had 20 guests from the UK on. 14 or 15 of them, it's been raining while we were talking, and I was like, okay, that's how it has to be, really, when you have a guest on from the UK. I mean, just to really, ham it up. But yeah, before we get into weather woes, because believe me, I have my fair share over here. To start things off, why don't you just give us your backstory and what really inspired and motivated you to, get in shape and eventually become a bodybuilder?
Okay, so I've got quite the sporting background. I've always been pretty sporty. I think that stems from me being really super competitive, as in, I would never even play Crash Bandicoot because I would get so irate if I didn't win. So school, I used to play on the netball team, on the hockey team. Then in university, I wanted to try something new. So obviously, I was going out and I was partying quite a lot, but I was quite conscious that I still wanted to be quite fit and healthy. So I joined handball, which was a brand new sport over here. It's played mostly in Europe, in Germany, places like that. I thought, why not? Because if I'm bad at it, then my excuse is, well, I'm new to it. Anyway, I loved it. It was great. I actually became the women's handball captain. It was absolutely fantastic experience, and I trained about 2 to 3 times a week. So I was still relatively fit and healthy, although, like I said, I was still partying. I was still drinking a lot. My diet was absolutely terrible, and I got to the point where I finished my master's degree, and I remember distinctly being in my bedroom and finally putting a pair of jeans on. Now, I'd been living in the library in leggings and pajama pants, and my jeans would not fit. And I looked at them and I thought, well, there's obviously something wrong with the washing machine because this is weird. Turns out I'd just absolutely piled the weight on and I wasn't happy with how I looked. So I tried to do a little bit of dieting and I was yo-yoing, and I finally secured a teaching job. So I left university. I worked for just over a year just to get a little bit of cash, and then I became a teacher. And I thought, you know what? I really need to get back into something. So I started going to the gym that was right by the school that I'd got a job in. And I just developed a love for weightlifting. Now, I'd been in and out of the gym through university, so I'd done a little bit of weightlifting here and there, mostly just trying to outlift the boys because I was super competitive. Um, so I started going to the gym about 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago now, and I loved weight training because you can really throw yourself in it. It's explosive and you can challenge yourself every single session and you can be competitive with yourself. And that's what I loved. And with that came a new love for the way that I was looking. And that was a huge, huge thing for me. I was like, wow, I've got curves in the right places. Let's do this more. So I got the idea in my head to, okay, let's knuckle down and let's sort the nutrition side out. Like you were saying before, that was my downfall too. I was quite emotionally attached to food. So if I was thinking, okay, I'll come home tonight, I'll have some chicken wraps and salad, I would actually get quite upset. And I would think of any excuse I could come up with to phone the pizza place and get a big 12-inch pepperoni and a side of garlic bread and a side of chips because that would make me happy. But that was obviously counterproductive to the body that I was trying to achieve. So what I did was I signed up with a local PT who was actually a friend, and he said, you know what, I'll help you. We'll do a 6-week shred. So this was the beginning of any sort of diet phase, any structured weight training that I'd ever done. And I did it in the lead up to a holiday. And actually, I really enjoyed it. I actually shed quite a lot of weight. I looked completely different. And I've never been on a holiday where I was so thrilled with how I looked and so proud to be stood in a bikini. I thought, right, we're doing it. We're going to do a prep. I've already got a base of muscle. So let's go for it. Let's shred down and let's get on stage. And so, yeah, in 2020, I started a prep. But obviously, that was the start of COVID, which knocked the wind out of my sails. And so I tried to keep a relatively nice physique the whole way through COVID. And I think the structured way of eating actually really helped me through the lockdown period. So it gave me something to do and something to focus on each day. And then at the end of 2020, I was actually fortunate enough to be able to compete. It was my first ever season. And with the federation that I just became Miss Universe with, I actually won the UK Open show. So being the competitive person I am, that really lit a fire in my belly.
How did you deal with the mental effect of lockdown, not being able to work out as much, or did you have some equipment at home that you were able to use?
Oh, no. So I had minimal equipment and I'd actually just moved back in with my parents. So that was quite tough. So being the age I was, 28, and I just moved back in with my parents because the apartment that I was renting was being sold. So it was a lot at once. It was quite overwhelming. So not only did I not have my apartment or my previous relationship, I didn't have a gym. Everything was just up in the air. However, I thought, you know what? Pull yourself together. Everyone's in the same boat. Let's try and make the most of it. And actually, quite enjoyed the first lockdown. It was actually really lovely to have my own space away from the relationship I'd been in, building a great relationship with my parents, and also the novelty of back garden workouts was quite a thing. So working out with like bottles and watering cans and anything you could get your hands on was actually pretty fun. I remember posting videos on my social media, and people from the gym that I went to were posting up theirs. And I actually quite enjoyed the first part of lockdown. Obviously, it was what came after, with the uncertainty and the length of it. It really started to take its toll, and that's when I decided, you know what, I am just going to have to knuckle down and try and get the best from it here, because if I'm wanting to compete, I've got to maintain this physique. So I've got to make sure I work hard on myself whilst others don't. So that was really, really a motivator for me.
I mean, I cannot agree with you more. I was in the similar boat where I had just paid off all my student loans. I moved out of my parents' house February of 2020 thinking that, oh my God, I'm going to finally start the new chapter of my life. A month later, I moved back in with my parents again because of COVID and everything like that. So, yeah, I totally understand. And just now, like this, in a couple of months, I will be moving back out finally after all of that. So, yeah, it was just a dilemma for so many people. But when we talk about, just not even the mental effects of COVID, but like this is so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport. And most people do not understand that because they'll just notice the physical changes and say, oh my God, Amy, you look amazing. But they don't understand that mental transformation that has taken place as well, which is 100 times more important than any physical change we'll ever have. What has this journey been like for you mentally?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. So I feel like I'm a very determined person. And if I say I want to do something, I have to do it. So there's been numerous times in my life where I have actually done that, like getting my master's degree. I once ran a marathon as well, which
Oh
is
God.
because I hate long distance running. So I have no
It's
idea.
a, it's a mental illness, everyone.
Yeah, I did it for charity. So, but yeah, I think I was just a woman possessed. That was not me running that race. There was someone else there. But yeah. So the mental side of it, I feel like I love a challenge. I actually relish a challenge. And when things are difficult, if I can push myself past it, I find it so rewarding. So obviously the COVID setbacks, I really loved the fact that I could push through and I could actually find some gain and some positive in it. And it's the same with prep as well. So I find it's not the hunger that's difficult, it's the lack of energy. It's when the gym, your passion, becomes a chore, that is difficult. The things that you're enjoying in life are no longer enjoyable. I can't sit on the couch and watch Netflix because I have no interest. I have no attention span. Sleep is everywhere, and you become a little bit of a zombie. And I feel like the way that I deal with that is because I know that there's a greater good. So I know that when I'm suffering and when I'm low energy, it's because the fat is literally melting off my body, and I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to love my check in because I'm going to look better. And that is how I deal with it mentally. So I actually get quite a lot of satisfaction and enjoyment from it. And I've always said to myself, the moment I don't enjoy it is the moment I stop. So I keep going. And also, I'm sure we'll talk about this as well, is my back issues and my sciatica. Obviously, that has been the toughest part for me mentally.
You honestly read my mind. That was honestly the next question that I was going to ask you. Is that yes, you do have a lot of back issues, and for me, my back is the best part about me. It's like the one area that I look really good at. So, how do you deal with having that? I mean, because like not even being a bodybuilder, having those back problems is hard enough as it is. But when your life revolves around working out and maintaining and looking a certain way, I mean, how do you deal with that? Because that to me is the most inspiring thing about your journey.
Thank you so much. The first thing I tell myself is this will not beat me and it does not define me. And I feel like having that in my head helps me to push through. So it's split discs. I have three affected discs, one in particular, L5 to S1. It really, really pokes out and pushes on my sciatic nerve. And I struggle to straighten my left leg. I struggle to bend. I struggle with the big compound lifts. But mostly, I struggle with day to day tasks like driving. So, sat in my car on the way to work, it's burning and I'm trying to move and I'm trying to relieve it. And it's really hard not to spiral into, oh my God, I've got to spend all day at work. Then I've got to go and train. Then I've got my cardio. I'm in so much pain. I'm not going to be able to do it. So for me, it's about shifting the mindset. So, okay, I've got this pain. What am I going to do about it? Because it's not going to beat me. I'm not going to give into it. I'm not going to start trying to drug the pain away. I'm not going to try and just lay on the couch all day and feel sorry for myself. So I see a physio who does dry needling on me, which is bizarre, really bizarre. Actually, kind of like it though. And he massages
You're a
me.
bodybuilder by default. You're a glutton for punishment. So okay.
Yeah, exactly. Stick those needles in me. um, so yeah, so dry needling, a little bit of the TENS machine with the electricity going through me, massage, chiro. And now it does not solve the issue. It may even be placebo, but for about a week after my treatment, I do feel better. So each week, or about 10 days, I go and see my physio. I work with my coach, who is incredibly supportive. And we basically try to work around the problem. Anything that gives me pain, I just don't do. And instead, we come up with ways to target certain muscles. So obviously, being a bikini girl and just a girl in general, you want big, nice, full glutes, right? Obviously, to get those nice popping glutes, you have to do certain leg movements, which involve straightening the leg, bending your back. Um, so one of the ways to counteract this is to do single leg exercises. Um, even to pulse as well. So on the leg press, some people must look at me and think, what is she doing? She's doing quarter reps.
There have to be videos of you online somewhere being like, "What is this lady doing at the gym? Like she's crazy or something." Like there has to be.
I am going to be on the form police, honestly, but I do care. I will literally sit and I will pulse and pulse and pulse and really try to feel a connection, really try to warm up areas. I wear a lifting belt like all the time. I will really, really overdo anything that could even slightly help.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what do you even do for back days then? Because like even with a bad back on back, I mean that to me is just like how you had any definition or anything like that in your back is the most. It's like I don't even know how you'd be able to do it.
Yeah, so my back, it is my weakest area. Yeah, mostly because obviously I suffer with the back injuries, and because when I first ever started weight training, I was very, very girly about it. In that I just wanted to do legs and booty. So my back is a little bit underdeveloped. But saying that, I was really scared of training back. However, as long as I avoid things like deadlifts or rack pulls that are too heavy, I can actually really work around it. Lots of low rows, lat pull downs, variations of exercises like that. Again, one arm movements. I've really been able to work around that, and moving forward with my coach as well. That is really something that we want to work on this off season to bring up my back even better, working around these issues. So I'm super, super excited to do that.
Meanwhile, I was the exact opposite of you. I was the gym bro who's just doing curls and chest and back really the whole time. I mean, my legs, I'm 6'3", so my legs and my lower body, that's the one area where I've always made the joke I could inject pure muscle into my legs and they're not going to, gain anything. Calves don't even get me started. I could do 10,000 calf raises and, it's not, nothing's going to change with them. So, yep, everyone always has those body parts that they really take off with and they really struggle with. But I mean, you talk nutrition a little bit, and I just love to bring that up because so many people just do not understand that is the vast majority of any changes that you'll ever see is due to nutrition. And I don't care what anyone says. What were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made? Because unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately, that is, like I said, that's the cause for the vast majority of results you're going to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Shifting your mindset to looking at food to be fuel rather than purely for pleasure and enjoyment, I think is vital. The pleasure and enjoyment ends up coming from the meals you're having anyway when you do get more hungry. And I always used to make a joke. At work, people might laugh at me for having a rice cake with a bit of peanut butter on and going, as I'm eating it. But the funny thing is, I am having just as much pleasure from this rice cake as you are with that piece of cake, with the added bonus of enjoying my physique instead of.
I don't know if I can believe that you're having that much fun as me with a piece of cake. Then I don't know about that, but I'll play. You're my guest, so I'll play along. No, but I when I was in really really good shape in college, I understand exactly what you're saying like that. But for the average person who's listening to this, they'll be like, "There's no way that's true."
Yeah, but the thing is, if I could have a rice cake with a little bit of peanut butter and a slice of cake and have them at the same time, of course the cake is better. But what I'm saying is, when you're in the moment, when you're on prep and all you're having is your chicken and rice, your beef and broccoli, when you have something like a rice cake with peanut butter, it is just amazing. You just look forward to food and you get pleasure from it. And I'm saying when you're in the moment, it feels like equally as good, even though we know it's not. And I will say as well, when you then get to indulge after the show, it makes it even sweeter. There is nothing quite as good as the reward of something so pleasurable after putting so much effort in. And also, just off the back of that, I think when a lot of people start dieting, they think that if on their meal plan it says to have beef and rice, they will literally fry dry ground beef in a pan, whack it on plain rice. They won't use any seasoning, any green veg, or anything. Of course, it's going to taste terrible. So I think using seasoning, using these tricks and techniques, I think that really, really helps with the nutrition as well.
Absolutely. Oh, I knew exactly what you're saying. I'm just pretending to be the layman idiot for all the people out there that are listening, like, oh, what is she talking about? It tastes just as good and stuff. But I always said the thing, like, I hate broccoli more than life itself, but if I had a diet of just, like, grass, something like that for a week, broccoli would taste just like a piece of cake for me. So, it's all about perspective, too, yeah, obviously, And again, if you could have that physique while eating just cake, give me a call, because I will spend my entire life savings to, follow your lifestyle or whatever. But yeah, it's just, yeah, that nutrition aspect is just so not even talked about really as much as it should be, which is something that I trying to change. But I mean, also with this lifestyle, what was your friends and family's reaction like when you announced them, like, hey, I want to give bodybuilding a try? That's not something that a lot of friends and family hear from from others.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with going to the gym, they were very, very supportive about that. And then when I said, so I want to be a bikini athlete, they did not know what that meant. And they were like, oh. So they were torn between, well, does that mean you're gonna be on stage like whoa and you're gonna be really big, and or does it mean you're gonna be walking up and down a catwalk? And I was like, it's kind of somewhere in between. um but no, so yeah, they were like, okay, like my parents have always been incredibly supportive of anything I wanted to do. And they also trust me. And what I mean by that is, with being quite intelligent girl, they know that I'm not going to launch myself into something really unhealthy, really silly. So they were very, very supportive. But funnily enough, I was actually chatting to them this morning about this, and I was saying how supportive they are and how that it's just normal that I live this lifestyle now, and they're completely used to me weighing out the food. And even, I'll go over there on a weekend and I'll take some of my own food, and they're completely used to it. But they did say at the start it was incredibly bizarre to see this girl who had grown up in their household, who loves pizza and cake and crisps, to be weighing out bits of chicken and broccoli. They were like, let's see how long this lasts. But I think they're actually really, really impressed that it has lasted, and that I've got so many benefits from eating in a clean, structured way. Yeah, they're thrilled for me.
Yeah, it's always a learning process. That's what I've heard from a lot of my guests that I have on, especially,
Yeah.
when it comes to their families. But just in this journey in general, there are so many little things that most people do not understand about this sport. But what would you say is probably the biggest misconception that you might have had before you got into this? Because if you talk to the general public, I mean, they have so many misconceptions about this sport. And then when you add the female bodybuilding aspect to it, I mean, they just quadruple.
Absolutely. Probably drugs and hunger. So as soon as you say bodybuilding, people just think you're injecting yourself with steroids left, right, and center, which is absolutely not true. Especially to be a bikini athlete, you do not have to use PEDs at all. I'm not against them, and I think that it's the athlete's choice if they want to go ahead and do that. That's absolutely fine by me. But that is one of the biggest stigmas, is that I'm taking testosterone, for example, and that my voice is going to go really deep. That is a huge misconception, that it's really dangerous and illegal. And I think, yeah, the other misconception is the hunger and the food side of it. Oh my gosh, this is what people say. Oh my gosh, me when I'm hungry. Oh, you do not want to see that. Oh, I cannot deal with hunger. Oh, hunger's the worst thing. And I think there's a real problem in the world in general with eating clean, structured food and branding that under healthy eating, when actually it is just eating. If you eat a dish of chicken and rice and broccoli, that is good food. That's fine to eat. You might have some potato, you might even have a jacket potato with tuna, and people go, oh, eating healthy. Oh, you're being good. Well, no, I'm just eating food. Like, why is that seen as a diet when it's just wholesome foods? And when you walk around the supermarket, everywhere, chocolate, crisps, goodies, absolutely everywhere, and then just a little veg section at the front of the shop. Like, it's bizarre, actually. It's really bizarre.
Oh, you think it's bad in the UK? You should come over here to the States and see what we got in some of our stuff. I mean, I wish I had it with me, but I had it like a week ago when I had a guest on. They have at the like convenience stores, you can get like a soda can, but it's like literally this tall, probably. It's it's a super flay. It's a super XL large, basically, where you get. I mean, it's like I agree with it because it's a good deal. It's like $3 for soda that would probably cost you like $20 if you went to another store and got it. You can just put it all in a can, but like, yeah, it is. The portion sizes here are absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know how I'm even in any semblance of shape myself personally with all I eat, but I think it's just my genetics. But unfortunately, that is the case too. But I mean, I love to also talk genetics too because most people do not understand that like you can train just like someone and you can eat just like them and you are not going to get the same results as them. Unfortunately, what has that been like for you? Because like this journey, this whole entire sport is basically comparing yourself with others when you get on that stage. Not in the 99% of the sport where you're by yourself, but you are comparing yourself with others. How do you deal with that side mentally of like you cannot look just like someone, you cannot train, or I mean, you cannot just end up with that final product. You have to just be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think every time I hit the stage, as long as I have beat myself from the previous time I'm on stage, I can't ask for any better. Now it's a funny one with genetics, because you see people saying it's me versus me, and like you just said, kind of is, but you are literally being compared to everyone else on stage. Therefore, it's not a bad idea to compare yourself against other girls. And we're all guilty of stalking people on Instagram to look at our competition, but I think it's how you deal with it. So understanding this is my body, this is the way that I look, these are my proportions, this is how I lean down. As long as you understand that, then I think that's a healthy way to move forward. For example, I have an incredibly small waist, so it's actually less than 22 inches when I'm lean. I have a video of me actually measuring it.
Can you do the thing where you can like put your hands around it almost entirely?
Yeah, yeah. It's really tiny. Obviously, that's genetic. It's great for my category because it really helps with the X shape. Um, but obviously, there are body parts. I weren't born with big quads. So I wasn't born with delts. I still had to work for it. But I think what else is really important is that even though I do have a tiny waist naturally, my midsection is the last thing to become lean. So I see other girls who are 10 weeks out with rippling abs, and it's easy to think, oh God, I still have a wobbly midsection. However, turn to the back, and I have really sharp glute ham ties, which are there in my off season, bizarrely. So I think you've got to work with your strong points, be aware of your weak points, and just bring your best damn package every time.
Well, now this brings up an interesting question because I've never talked to someone who has a waist like as small as yours because like and plus I have the guy waist where it's like literally just about the size of your shoulders basically. But like, does that affect your ab workouts at all having such a small waist? Because I don't like I'm just asking as a complete idiot because I have no idea what it would be like to have a smaller waist. How does that impact training at all?
Yeah, so good question. I have obviously a really small waist, but quite shallow abs as well. And I've always been quite conscious of it. Now, because of my back problems, I've never really, heavily trained abs. I've always been very, very careful with twisting and moving. Therefore, I actually have quite a weak core, quite weak obliques as well. I've discussed this with my coach to say, other girls have rippling abs and there's not really much there for me. And he said, yes, but for the bikini category, it is not vital to have really deep abs. And actually, if we started to plow our efforts into training them, they're only going to get thicker and actually increase the size of your waist when it's actually an advantage to have a very small but flat waist in bikini. So it actually does work in my favor. I would like a little bit more ab definition personally, but obviously, it does fit my category quite well.
That happened to me where in college I trained abs religiously and then my stomach would literally just get like tinier but like just tinily bigger. That's a word that I'm trying to make happen, but it's yeah. But yeah, that's it. Just slowly got bigger and bigger over time. So yeah, it does happen. But posing is the one aspect of the sport that most people do not understand is the hardest thing for a lot of these guests that I have on. Would have never guessed it in a million years before I started this podcast. But what has your experience with posing been like?
Okay, so I love posing. And when I first started, I was like a rocking horse. I was so stiff. I didn't know what I was doing. I just used to copy other girls. And since I developed more stage confidence, so after my first season, and I started to play around with posing, and actually I realized, you know what? Yes, I need to hit the checkpoints and I need to make sure that I'm compared to other girls. I need to pose for what's best for my physique. So rather than going, okay, so my hand should be near my belly button and I need to pop this lat and then it looking stiff. No, take a step back and pause and present your body. Be proud of it, stand tall, and show the judges your best features. So, since I put a little bit of my own creative spark onto my posing routines, they have become so much better. And actually, in my judges' feedback, it's always one of my strong points posing. However, it is difficult for me with the sciatica, particularly in my back shot. And my back shot is arguably one of my best as well. And I always say to people, I say, know that when I'm on stage and I do a glute shot and I'm grinning, it's actually burning. So yeah, it's that is one of the things that got me a little bit down in this prep was because my sciatica is probably the worst it's ever been. And whilst I was trying to enjoy my posing, it was causing me a lot of grief. So it was definitely difficult to push through that. But like I said, with being confident in presenting myself and with putting my own creative flair into my routines, I knew that I didn't have to practice multiple times a day, every day when I was in pain. So it worked quite well for me.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even think about posing when it came to your back. Like I totally forgot about that and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's so like okay, this may sound completely idiotic, but I have really no knowledge of this. Is there like a surgery that you can get for sciatica to help get it fixed, or what are their solutions for that other than just getting needles poked in you every once in a while?
Yeah, so actually there is. There's two problems really. One is that the disc actually protrudes, so it bulges. And the other is that the muscles are just so tight, and that causes inflammation as well. So working with my physio and getting the needle in, that tries to decrease the inflammation and relax my muscles. The surgery that you can get, basically, it's not very nice to think about, but you get the disc shaved, so it actually sort of relieves any pushing from the disc. However, the big drawback is that over time, scar tissue will grow back, and it can actually make the original problem worse. So they try to put off surgery for as long as possible. And obviously, being quite young, they want to avoid that at all costs, really.
Yeah, that's a good point. And again, that's why I ask these questions because I don't want to be that idiot who's like, oh, just get surgery, and then yeah, then I look like a complete idiot that I am when it comes to most things, medical. But when you walk on that stage after going through these preps, I mean, which let's be honest, they're not fun. I had one guest say that they were fun, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna drive you to the local insane asylum because for the safety of the public, you cannot be walking out amongst normal people if you think that preps are fun. Oh my god. No, no. Don't tell me. I thought you were so normal too going into this. Okay, I'll rephrase that. They can be fun at times, but like when you're waking up, like you said, with the lack of sleep, not and super hungry, if you're saying that that's fun, I have some timeshares in Florida to sell you then.
Okay, it's tough. It's rewarding, so it's fun in that sense, but it is tough. Yes.
So, and when you walk on that stage, what is that feeling like for you knowing that like you've put in so much work and now you're finally able to show off all that hard work that you've put on stage?
Oh my gosh, it is such a rush. It is an incredible feeling, and I have dreams about it. Even now, I have dreams about going out on stage, and I'm so lucky that I have all the videos from it, and I watch them all the time. Yeah, it's such a rush, and it's such a feeling of pride as well, especially overcoming the drawbacks. It's just I'm literally grinning ear to ear, like my cheeks are wobbling on stage because I'm so happy to be there. And then obviously when they called out my name when I'd won, it's actually really funny. I have a series of photos where I was doing an ugly cry. So I was so thrilled and emotional that it just overcame me, and I was trying to smile, but I was crying. So I have a lot of stage photos with this most bizarre face, but it just summarizes all the emotions that I was feeling.
Well, and we see your trophies behind you that you got, and I mean that's can I say the best thing about it is the sword for me. I mean that's the I don't get why they decide to give swords to bodybuilders, but that's the one thing that's the coolest thing for me. But out of all of those that you've won, what would you say is the most important or the most special one for you?
Yeah, so the sword is amazing, but I've got to say, probably the pro card, which is actually just a card. All of my trophies mean something to me, of course they do, but I think receiving that pro card, because it is the highest level, something that I never thought that I would achieve, especially with my problems. When they came and they actually just put the card in front of me, I was in fact there's a photo of me and I just threw my head back and just laughed because I almost couldn't believe it. So that little bit of card that's sat over there in my living room is probably, yeah, probably means the most to me.
Was that when you were doing the ugly crying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I can understand that because for so many people that don't understand that, that's like the highlight of most of these people's careers. Even if they were to go on and win the Olympia, I mean, a lot of them is just winning their pro card because that's finally getting the seat at the table and finally, all that
Mm.
hard work, finally paying off. But now we go to my favorite question of all time: what is your go-to post-show meal?
Burger and fries.
Any place in particular? And I love the American accent that you had to do with it too.
Five Guys. It's ended up being a Five Guys. I love it. It's great. You can't go wrong. It always tastes the same. It's indulgent, and the shakes are bloody lovely.
There must be something in the UK because I'm not gonna lie, the Five Guys shakes here are absolutely horrendous. So it must be maybe they do them better over here. But I do love Five Guys. That would probably be the one place where I would, if I ever compete, I would just take $1,000 on my bank account and go and rent a Five Guys for a night and be like, okay, you're gonna feed me until I either puke, pass out, or die. Basically, those are the three options. But there's also, if you want to hear the most American thing ever, there's a place here called Smash Burger. They might be in the UK. I have no idea, but they have a burger there. The bun, first of all, is like probably like that big, like it's massive. The patty is so big that it goes off and it touches the plate. They have it. So, that would probably be another place for me. They have the best shakes for me, personally, but it's very, very expensive. So it's one of those things where you gotta do it probably. I go there once a month. Just that's my treat if I have a whole week or a whole month of just getting all my workouts in and doing all my cardio. So, there is that. But now we go into, I mean, most people don't talk about post show blues. And for anyone that doesn't understand that, that's, you cannot look this way 24/7, unfortunately. You have to put on weight in the off season. You have to, in order to, I sort of like to give the comparison of like, it's like you got to spend money to make money. You got to put on weight if you want to put on muscle. But what has that been like for you as you've realized that like, hey, I can work my butt off making, just this great progress and having this great physique on stage, but unfortunately I'm going to have to put on weight. Has it gotten easier for you as your career's gone on just to sort of deal with the fact that like, hey, I am going to have to put on some size?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a shock, and I would say post show is actually harder than prep. But the more times you experience it, definitely does get easier, and you accept that you have got to gain weight to get better, and that becomes the motivator. So once you've accepted that, it becomes easier. And obviously, being a woman, you get your womanly curves back, so you can celebrate that as well.
Well, yeah, and it's even harder for the women though, because like for the guys, we don't care. I mean, it's like, yeah, I'll get you. So you want me to gain 20 to 30 pounds? It's sign me up. Yeah, where do I? So yeah, that's just a whole different thing. But I mean, like, let's be honest too. You're not the average looking woman. If you're to walk out in public dressed the way that you are right now, you are gonna get some stares just because it's human nature when you see something that's not of the normal to just be like, oh wow, just the human curiosity thing. What has that been like? Is it still something that you just kind of like? Or like, oh, this is kind of weird, but have you gotten more used to like the fact that like, yes, I'm gonna draw more people's attention?
Yeah, absolutely. I just take it as a compliment because most people are incredibly positive about it. They really are. So yeah, and I find it is women as well. It is mostly women. It depends what I'm dressed in, to be honest. But especially if like if my shoulders are out and if I've got veins, Obviously, there's a little bit of stigma attached to that. So, oh, it's quite manly. But usually,
I
yeah,
always respond to that. What kind of men do you hang out with then if she looks like a man, basically? So
yeah, exactly. Have you seen what the average man looks
yeah.
like? Yeah, so definitely
Yeah,
not.
we'll have a picture of Jay Cutler next to her, and we'll see if you can spot the difference.
What I actually like is being in work or even around my family, right in the latter stages of prep when you're drawn in and people say, "Oh, are you poorly? Are you ill?" But I go, "Yes, I must be getting leaner. Yes, I actually take it as a compliment."
I'm writing down poorly because that's a phrase that I've never heard here in the US. Every time I have a UK guest on, I try to find a new phrase that I can maybe use in my life. My favorite was I had a Scottish person on and there was rip the piss. I'd never heard that before in my entire life. So, we're learning, okay, poorly, everyone. Well, although I will say the greatest insult I've ever heard on this podcast is I had a guest from Liverpool, and they were walking down the street one time. This is a female. I think they were a physique competitor, and they were walking down the street, and one guy went up to him and said, "You're an embarrassment to look at." That is the most hardcore insult. That's the most British insult I've ever heard in my entire life. But that is also, I still to that day, that is one of the highlights of this podcast. Hearing that, but okay, you look poorly. I'm gonna have to use that next time I see someone that looks like they're like sick or something. Oh,
Yeah,
you look poorly or something. But that is so.
poorly.
How do you deal with eating at holidays too? Because I mean, like, if you're in my family, you're expected to, put on about 5 pounds every holiday just because of all the food that you're going to eat. But how do you deal with that? I mean, I know your family said they got used to it, but still, like, I would be that one annoying family member who was like, "Oh, you think you're better than us? You're not going to eat our potatoes or something like that."
To be honest, my appetite is through the roof, and I absolutely love my dad's Christmas tea. Oh, tea dinner. It's a Northern English thing. We call it tea.
I have never had tea in my life, and I will pride myself in that fact. I'm a pure coffee drinker, but I've rarely ever had. As you can tell, I'm a very hyper person, so me on too much caffeine, like my head's gonna explode. So that's the only
No,
problem.
see, right, tea. There's drinking tea, and then up in the north of England, we call dinner tea. So it's really confusing even for the southerners in the country. But yeah, so my dad's cooking is amazing and I will finish it before the rest of my family and they're used to that and they know that I'm allowed a few days here and there where I can do that. So they will say to me, "Off plan?" And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "Okay." And then my mum's face lights up because she knows she can share wine and chocolates with me. And my dad knows that he can cook the best homemade food. So yeah, the holidays, I just tend not to look at myself. And then going back to the gym after the holidays, you're fueled with so much energy that you actually really enjoy your sessions. So overall, it's actually really good to have that downtime.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we're gonna talk about this eventually, but as you can tell, I am one of the whitest people you will ever meet in my entire life. Just even looking at the sun right now, I'm surprised I have not gotten burnt. I'm mainly Norwegian, so that's just like my pure. I got the Norwegian farmer body basically, where it's just like we're gonna get absolutely burnt. That's all my family was growing up when they came over from Norway. But so just imagining the amount of tan that I would have to put on to walk on stage, I would probably bankrupt the company. Well, I bankrupt myself first, and then the company. But what is that whole tanning process like for you? Because like you're a tan person, and I like when you become a bodybuilder, that's something that you really have to invest in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super expensive. The best part about tanning is the shock when you've never competed before and you walk into a bunch of naked women with hairnets on, all just starred having a chat. Actually, I really, really look forward to tanning now because it's a social event. It's brilliant. But yeah, it's always way darker than I expect as well. So even like at my pay list, they put sort of one layer the night before, and then on the day they put another layer. And I always think, oh my gosh, it's not going to go dark enough. And I'm always one of the darkest on stage. So, and I am actually very much Caucasian. I do have a little bit of the tan still on me. I kept topping it up through the week. So I am actually pretty white, and I love the process, and I love being really tanned.
You're not like me though, where like if the sun shines on me, it's kind of like Twilight, where like people's heads are gonna explode really, basically just by like I mean, it's like, oh my God, don't even give me. That's why, like, when I go on my walks at night, I have to go on my walks at night, basically, or when it's getting closer to dark. Otherwise, I will get burnt to an absolute crisp. But we talked cardio before, and I know you hate cardio, and I hate it as well. But when I say cardio, I mean running. Like, I go on walks nightly where I got to get my 10,000 steps in. But how do you deal with that hate relationship with cardio? Because unfortunately, when you become a bodybuilder, you sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio. It's a necessary evil.
Absolutely. It is mind numbing. So I find the best thing to do is just anything that will occupy your mind. Morning cardio is honestly it. You go and do your morning cardio fasted, and then you're like, oh, you just want your breakfast afterwards, and it's tough. It's really, really hard in the morning, but I like to get it done. So what I like to do is just watch something on YouTube or write a check-in for my coach for the next day, or just something to occupy myself whilst I'm doing it. I think the worst feeling is when you forget your headphones and you turn up and you look at the stairmaster and you think, how am I going to do it? And then you get on and you just got to zone out and you just got to keep going. But there's a few songs as well. There's a few songs that I'll listen to, and when I'm flagging, when I'm tired and I'm struggling, I'll put the song on and it'll always perk me up a little bit.
Well, here's the problem with that, though, because I told this to my last guest, but I'll tell it to you as well. So when I was in college, I had my whole workout playlist. I had a song that would play every time that I was about to finish up my workout. The only problem with that is that when you hear it in the general public, your mind kind of, you get a little bit of an endorphin rush because you're still like in that, like, because you're so used to hearing it. It's kind of like that Pavlov's dog, basically, where like you're so conditioned to it, where like you're thinking that like, oh my god, I'm just about to complete a workout. It's like, no, you're going to get groceries at Cub, basically. So you're not doing that. But yeah, it's that's the only trick with that. But I mean, yeah, it is ridiculous how you can find a way to entertain yourself with cardio. For me, it's the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. I've been listening to it like crazy. That's how I get through my cardio, and I'll do that again, tonight. But I mean, one of the few, as we get close to wrapping things up here, I mean, sleep. Sleep. As you can tell, I probably didn't get that much. I think I got like 6 hours last night, but it's a never ending struggle for me. I got my melatonin right here. And it's just, for me, it's just still, but I can imagine, especially as you get closer to your show. I mean, like everyone I've talked to said, your sleep becomes so much more precious as you get closer to your show. How do you deal with that? Because I am going to be one of those people that says, like, if I don't get my proper beauty sleep, I am not a pleasant person. And I will gladly admit that.
Yeah. So for me, I sleep like a baby most of the time. However, I will say with having to push the water, I am precious about my sleep. And when people at work are saying they were up 6 times in the night with their child, I'm saying I was up 3 times for a week and I feel like I've not slept. I'm going to be the worst mom. But yeah, so generally sleep okay. It really annoys me getting up to the toilet. But I think just accepting it, not napping is a big thing. Save your sleep until night. Make sure you switch off. I have like lavender pillow sprays. Sleep with a nice cool room. I'm lucky that I have an ensuite as well, and just accept that I'm going to be getting up in the night to pee, and make sure you walk to the bathroom like this as well, to try and not wake yourself up. Sit down with your eyes half closed. Do everything not to wake yourself up, and then just pray that you're going to fall back asleep again.
I almost lost here when she said going to wee for 3 times a night. Again, another UK. I had to write that down too. I never. Jeez, I'm learning a lot through this podcast. But yeah, that's one thing people understand too. The amount of water that you're going to drink. Good luck having a nice bladder. By the time you're about, that's probably going to be the one thing that's impacting these bodybuilders more than anything else. Is your bladder is probably going to be dead by the time you're 60 years old. But I struggle with that too. Where it got to the point where I was lucky because the apartment that I lived in before I had to move back in with my parents, the bathroom was literally connected to my bedroom. So I literally just had to walk like 10 feet to go. But like, yeah, it's a struggle sometimes at night, especially, yeah, when you're getting up and you're just like, yeah. That's one thing that people don't understand. And also, I do have to raise this out there because I don't talk about this as much, but I am in decent shape right now, and I'll say decent, not really the best shape. I mean, I still work out and stuff like that, but like when I was in like almost competition shape, when I was in my early 20s in college, it got to the point though where I was putting on so much size where I had trouble sleeping at night sometimes because my neck was people don't talk about that though too, where sometimes your neck sometimes can get like so big where like I would wake up, I would have dreams where like I was choking basically, and then I'd like wake up, I forgot what that's, or sleep apnea basically.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
something that can impact you as you get more muscular and stuff like that, because your body's just trying to compensate. So I did struggle with that, and it's funny where like as soon as I stopped, working out intensely, I now have never had that happen to me ever again. But it was like a solid like 2 years where I was like, why am I getting up like choking like every other night basically like that? So it's the little things that you really have to, deal with. But I mean, let's be honest too. Clothing options can be limited at times. They don't really make a lot of clothes for women that are very healthy and fit. What has that journey been like for you? Because especially going, since you have to have basically your prep wardrobe and your off season wardrobe.
yeah.
First of all, you're wasting a lot of money on clothes, and second of all, the clothing options are very limited.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, things generally fit my legs and not my waist. They're so baggy on my waist. And sometimes it can actually feel a little crappy because you want to put something on to look nice and it's just all baggy and it makes your body feel flat and shapeless. And that's not very nice, actually. That's not very pleasant. So normally I will just rock around with gym wear on all the time because I don't look that good in regular clothes. But then I guess, again, in the latter stages of prep, you stop giving a crap and you just chuck on whatever, no makeup, hair in a bun. So I guess that's on your side. One thing I will just that I want to mention is shaving your armpits on prep is the most difficult, especially when you have implants as well. Your armpit turns into a cave and you cannot get the razor in there. There is honestly no dignity at all in this sport in the final stages. Nothing fits. You can't even get rid of your own body hair. You literally turn into Stig of the Dump. It's, yeah, yeah. We're all
What is
frauds.
Stigger the Dump?
Stig of the Dump is like, it's like a childhood book about like a troll that lives in rubbish garbage places and he's just really hairy. He's like Bigfoot.
Again, something I got to look up after we're done. After we're done here, but yeah, that is. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that whole, especially on the female side, that whole manicure and pedicuring yourself, or basically just cleanliness self, is, yeah, don't even get me started. I mean, that to me is one of the most impressive things about just living this lifestyle in general. Whereas the men, yeah, we can have hairy legs and arms until we get on that stage, but you will never catch me shaving my legs or arms ever. But yeah, that's just personal. I'll be the guy with the tan on, where like you can see the hair from like you can see the hair on the legs, just like part of it just like still on the hair. So yeah, there is that. But now, if someone were to walk up to you and say, Amy, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, what is one thing that you'd like to see change?
Oh, that is such a hard question.
We save them for the end here, everyone.
The one thing,
It can be more than
you know,
one too, if you have more than one.
I'm gonna say politics. Like, if you could just remove all politics. Now, luckily, with the federation I'm in, I remember winning my first show when I was just an absolute no one. I was coached by someone that no one knew her name, and I still won. So I really trust that federation. But yeah, there's other federations, and sometimes there's questionable wins. And I know it's a subjective sport, but if you could just remove that completely, then also, one question that I have been pondering myself a while is, if you're the only person in a category, do you deserve to win by default?
I've had two guests of those on stage where that's how they got their pro card. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, and I don't actually know her name, so I can't name any names, but there's been like a woman recently who competed and she not only won a category, but she won the overall. She won a sword and she was 30, 30 weeks out. So she was in her off season. I imagine, again, I don't know this for sure, but I think she just competed to qualify for another show. But because she was the only person, yeah, not only did she win. Now I can understand a win because you are the only person who's actually put yourself through it and shown up, and if you're in shape and you deserve to win. But an overall, it's not overall, it's over no one. So how can you win an overall? And now, that goes in her sort of bank of everything that she's won. So she would technically be like rated higher than other bikini girls. And it's like, is that fair? Is that a thing?
Well, yeah, and then you also have scenarios where, like, I had two Swedish competitors on where they were the only two that were competing at a show for physique, and they weren't able to win their pro card because you needed, I think, 4 people to compete at a show. So yeah, if they could just find a way to make sure that these would be more full, because believe me, that's the only reason I would ever win my pro card for a male. I would have to be the only one that shows up, and they'd be like, okay, yeah, give it to this. First of all, just to show how much of a farce it would be, I wouldn't even train at all. I would just show up looking the way that I'm right now and be like, yeah, give me my pro card, basically, because I'm the only one. But yeah, they need to figure that out too, where it's like, yeah, if you're the only person there, I honestly believe that you should not be getting a pro card, but you can get a win, obviously, just because, like, yeah, like you said, the hard work that you have to put in, just mostly people, they should get a monument just for stepping on that stage, just because of all that you go through. But yeah, that is definitely one thing. And prize money too, where I was like, let's be honest, if you have your pro card, for me, my whole thing was like, you should not have to have a day job if you have a pro card, because like, this is so, people don't understand that how much this controls your life and how much time this takes out of your day, where it's like, it's almost impossible to live be a functioning member of society when you're a bodybuilder, just because of, you're working out, your cardio, your meal preps, your eating. It takes up so much of your day that a lot of people do not understand.
Yeah, I do wish there was more money in it. Again, I obviously don't do this sport for the money,
Oh yeah,
but
if you did, you'd be the biggest. If you did, for as smart as you claim you would be the biggest idiot of all time. Yeah.
yeah, but if there was more money, I mean, if you think about the transferable skills that a bodybuilder has, like these people, I have so
You'd be
much
great in the
respect.
army.
Yeah, but yeah, the discipline and everything. And I guess that if there was more prize money or some sort of gain, especially for the pro level athletes, then that would be brilliant to see. That would be brilliant to see. If it was a bigger, not quite as niche sport, I suppose that would be pleasant.
Which is what I'm trying to help out with, at least, because yeah, for as much, I mean, it's like they used to be on ESPN, they used to have bodybuilding shows. Now they have like cornhole, which is a sport that you play when you're drunk in your backyard on Memorial Day, basically, which is what I'm going to be this weekend, because this weekend is Memorial Day here. So it's just ridiculous how little the knowledge is about the sport, especially in the general public and everything. But now, I mean, for anyone that has back issues like yourself, what's the best piece of advice that you'd have for them just to get started working out? Because like, it's hard enough to get people to start working out, but if you have like a back issue or you have any other significant issues, it just becomes that much harder.
Yeah. Just do it. You'll never know until you do it. Don't avoid it, because I find that overall my issues have been better since I've been getting stronger. Definitely don't avoid it. And I actually, this prep, tried to take some anti-inflammatories to see if they would help. But actually, all it did was fill me up with water, and I looked like a water balloon. So I stopped taking them, and the pain was exactly the same. So they were doing absolutely naff all. And yeah, I just think you've got to just keep going, work around it, don't give into it, because you might find that it will actually help your situation.
Absolutely. Like, I have a guest who has MS, and I have an aunt that has MS, and she's in like the last stages of it. Like, we don't know how much longer she's going to last, but I also had a guest that has MS, and she caught it early while working out, and through working out, she's able to stave off most of the effects. Where, yeah, bodybuilding, as much as people like to talk about, like, oh, it's just a lot of drugs and blah, 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 blah. There's also another side to it too, where it's like you can actually help yourself and help better yourself. And this is a question that I just came up with a few weeks ago, which is showing how great I am, knowing that I've done like 500 of these podcasts and I just came up with this question. But I even say this to myself, almost every guest I have. Why do they do this to themselves? Why do they put themselves through it? Like, when I hear some of these prep stories, I'm just like, okay, why? And obviously, like, I understand why, but still, just as a human being, I'm just like, why do they suffer, do this so much? And I bet you hear that from a lot of people. How do you like to respond to that? Because like I said, you probably hear that all the time of like, why do you do this to yourself?
I love it. I find the human body so fascinating. I love biology. And I am so driven by the changes and how your body responds to all the different adaptations and manipulations of food. I love the journey. I really, really do. I feel like stepping on stage is just the icing on the cake. I'm so into it and get so much enjoyment from it. But yeah, my it's like academic career is in biology, so I think a little bit of a science nerd. So I love that aspect of it. And yeah, I love a personal challenge. I love saying this is what I did, and I love creating memories for 80-year-old Amy. I know that's cheesy, but I really do.
You're gonna have a hell of a story to tell. That's all I'm gonna say. And and as we wrap things up here, I mean, I'd love to have you on a year from now just to talk about like what you've been up to and what are some goals that you'd like to have, either in just your bodybuilding journey or just in your overall life. Where would you like to be at a year from today when we have you back on?
Oh, I would love to be gearing up for my first proper pro show, hopefully internationally as well. I'd love to go to another country and do it. And I just want to be super happy and still loving the bodybuilder lifestyle.
Absolutely, and I look forward to that as well. And is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Absolutely. Firstly, my coach, Dan Welburn, who is fantastic. My partner, Ryan Mackins, who also became Mr. Universe on the same day.
Great name, by the way. I will say that.
And yeah, all my family and my friends as well, my mum and dad.
So how do you deal with that? So that adds on just one final question, knowing that you have someone else in your relationship that you compete with that competes as well. How do you guys deal with being on prep at the same time? Because I bet you guys probably kind of sort of had to deal with that. I cannot imagine being on prep myself, but then having a significant other also on prep. Did you have people like basically just come over and do everything for you? Because I could not imagine being a functioning couple if you were both on prep at the same time.
Yeah, so my mum cleans the house. Yeah, my mum cleans the house. But having someone there when you're having a down day, you've got someone to encourage you. So it's constantly a seesaw. And then one of you will bring the other up, and if you're both feeling down, then you're both like, "Come on, let's pick each other up." So it actually works really well. But yeah, the house got a little bit scruffy, but we just didn't invite anyone over.
Yep. That's really how it has to be. But again, you guys, everyone, go and check out Amy. I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. Buyer beware. You will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies and get in shape for once. But again, Amy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey with us. It was an absolute delight to talk to you.
A pleasure. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.